Basically, the theme of this webinar will be sort of software and tools for online teaching. So if you've got any questions, put them in there about that. But then after that, hopefully I'll have some time to answer any questions you have at all about teaching English as a foreign language. Okay, so let me just start my PowerPoint here just to keep me on track. Yes, there we go. Okay, so the first thing I want to say about teaching English online and the type of software that you're going to be using is basically whether you're going to be working for a company or whether you're going to be freelance, because that does make a difference to what type of software you'll be using. Why? Because some companies will want you to use their software. So if you go and work for a company, some sort of, you go through the process of applying for a job, you might do a trial lesson, you might have an interview, all those kind of things like you would to get a normal teaching job. You then get some hours, you get some students from the company. They will say to you, "Hi, Carl, thank you very much. Congratulations. Please come work for us. We would like you to go through our browser, our web address on your browser to find some software. We want you to teach our students through that." And there's a number of reasons why they'll do that. It's a way of them to keep hold of the students, to get them into the classes easier, because they'll have a link which will then link to yours, means you've got less setup and that kind of thing at your end. It also might link to their payment systems and all their homework systems, their attendance systems. So that's why companies want you to do it. So the good thing about it from your point of view is that it's already set up. It's already ready to go. It's ready to be used. But this software might not have the functionality of something like Skype or Zoom. Okay, so although it is great, although it is fantastic, you do have to stick to their choices. Whatever they tell you to use, you have to use, okay? And sometimes they will say you can't use a tablet. Sometimes they will say you can't use a mobile phone. Sometimes they will say you have to use a Windows PC. So you are stuck with what they tell you to use, but that's the way. Don't try and get around it. My tip for you is to just go with it. Whatever they tell you to use it. But obviously, if you go freelance, and by freelance, I mean you find the students yourself, you take all the payment yourself, you do basically everything. You sort of run the company as a whole yourself. You have the choice between what sort of students you use. And this is the way I do it. So I'm a freelance online teacher. I find the students myself. I get them in through my web page, and I get them to I get them all set up on the software, and I use the software that I want to use. Okay. Now, my one tip for you to do that, okay, is to be flexible. All right. Whatever type of sorry, I'm just going to write a message here because I can't see any comments. I just want to check if I'm still online. Am I still online? Can everyone hear me? Yes, because I think it's sort of saying to me that I'm not online. I'm hoping that I'm online still. Hoping that I am. Wait there, here we go. I'm online. Good. Okay. I don't know why the comments have stopped then. Anyway, if you are online, good, you are still here. Thank you. There was just some problem with the comments. There we go. They didn't catch up. Good. Right. If you are going to go down the route of being freelance, be flexible. Okay. What do I mean by that? I mean is don't be very rigid in the software that you want to use. So when I first started, I only knew about Skype, and I just went down the Skype route. I got all my students. Thank you everybody for telling me that I'm being heard. That's lovely. I wanted to use Skype. Skype was what I knew. Skype I thought was the best way. I was really sort of inflexible. I would only use Skype. I then started, as I'd been doing it a bit longer, I had some students that said to me, oh, can we use Zoom or can we use Google Classroom? And I was like, first of all, no, we must use Skype. But then I decided, you know what, why not go with it? Why not have the flexibility to keep the student happy? So you might find that they want to use Zoom because they've used it before. You might find that they want to use Google Classrooms because it's something that they've used themselves in their own classroom, maybe with their high school teachers or their university teachers, for example. All right. So what I would say is be flexible. Don't be rigid. Okay. Be flexible. Now, the first thing, if you are going to go down the freelance route, is you've got to think of the video conferencing tool you're going to use. Okay. I now prefer to use Zoom. It's my favorite one to use. Okay. I think that it's quite easy to use. I think it's got lots of tools like the whiteboard, the chat function is good. The breakout room function is good. If you're teaching groups, for example, I think that it works well with the cameras. I think the mute and the sort of changing of the screen sharing, if you want to let other people do the screen share, all that kind of thing, I think works really well. I like Zoom. However, the free version, and I think it does change the rules every now and again, but I think currently the free version gives you a maximum of 40 minutes. Now, it could be that 40 minutes is fine for you. You might do 40-minute classes, and I like keeping them short. I think doing the really long classes online just doesn't really work. So keeping it to 40 minutes is good. However, some people like to do an hour. You can pay for Zoom, which will give you longer than 40 minutes, but I think that the 40 minutes thing can be a stopper. You have to stay on top of it, start new meetings, all of that kind of thing. All right. So the 40 minutes. However, what I find is that it is quite easy to be used by students in China, Zoom. I find with some other things such as Skype, which I'll get to a bit, can be used in China, but doesn't work as well through China. And the things like Teams, I've also had some difficulties with people in China, students in China getting set up on Teams. And Google also flows in and out of fashion with Chinese students, depending on whether it's allowed. So that kind of thing. I find that Zoom works pretty well in China. You might have to download a different version of Zoom. You might have to go through a different website, but it's all legit. It all works fine. I find that Zoom works well in China. Great. Some lovely comments coming in there about Zoom and that. Great. Keep them coming in. Lovely. So Zoom, I still think is the best, but pardon me. I do find that students sometimes say to me, no, I only want to use Skype. Skype is the only thing that I want to know. Okay. Skype, you can do longer than 40 minutes. Okay. You know, it can go on. It's free. It just goes on. All you need is a Microsoft email address or Microsoft account. That kind of thing can work. Works really well. Okay. However, I have found that Skype can be a bit difficult with Chinese students. They might need to download a special version of it. They might need to use some sort of virtual private network, which allows them to bypass some of the controls with China. And once they've all done that, I do find that the connection isn't as stable with Skype as it is with Zoom. However, there's still lots of tools you can use in Skype. The screen share works pretty well. The chat function, all that kind of thing works pretty well. I just think that Zoom overall is a better package than Skype. Okay, good. Some comments in there by everybody. A few people saying Zoom is 40 minutes if you've got 3 or more, and it's unlimited if only 2. Great. If that's the current rules, then go for it. I personally pay for Zoom. I like the freedom that I have with it. I like it fits me perfectly, but I know plenty of people that do not pay for Zoom. Okay, so that's your video conferencing tools. There's a few more. There are other ones out there. I can see somebody's put in the chat there about OBS Studio. Sylvain, is that your name, sir? Yes. Sorry, OBS Studio. I've never heard of that. OBS Studio might work really well, but personally, I've never heard of that one. Stick to Zoom, stick to Skype, okay? That's my opinion, all right? So you've got your video conferencing tool set up. It's all good. You do need some other tools, though. I don't personally feel that just using Zoom or Skype is enough. And the one that I use a lot is Google. Okay, I use the Google Documents. I use the Google Shared Drives. Now, why do I think you need to have a shared document in Google? Okay, why do I think this is good? Personally, I find it helps you to keep an online class a bit like a normal class that you might do in a classroom, because basically you can do it like a worksheet. I come from a background of teaching a lot in classes. You know, the first 15 years of my teaching life, I did not teach online. So I have a whole bank of worksheets, textbooks, all this kind of thing that I use a lot. And I would photocopy them, hand them out to the classes, all that kind of thing. I find that Google Docs allows you to also do that. It's sort of, you can convert what you do on a worksheet into a Google Doc. You send someone the link, they can type into it, you can type into it, you can show them things, all that kind of thing. I think it works really well. I also think that you can use it quite well to make some activities interactive. So for example, you could have a link, you could have a sentence, and you get the student, you jumble up the sentence into the wrong word order. You get the students to rearrange the word order, that kind of thing. You can get them to drag and drop. You can get them to cut and paste, all that kind of thing. I think works really, really well. Okay. Google Docs is free. Yes, you just need to have a Google account. Okay. Your students at the other end don't need to have a Google account, but I would recommend to them that they do set up. Okay. The other thing that you can do with Google pretty well is shared folders. So for example, you can put in listening clips into a shared folder, get them to play. You can get them to submit pictures into a shared folder. You can get them to submit essays that you mark, all that kind of thing. Google Docs is really good for marking writing. You can get right in there. You can highlight the errors. You can underline the grammar errors. You could put a different color for the vocabulary errors. You can right click, put some comments in there. All that kind of thing I think works really well. I love Google Docs. Sorry. You could also use Microsoft Docs. You can use online Word, that kind of thing. I see some people have put into the tips there that they use Canva. Again, that is something I have used, but I find that Google works really well. Another tool that I use a lot is Flipgrid. I don't know if any of you have ever used Flipgrid. Basically, Flipgrid is a great tool for marking, grading, and sort of error correcting students speaking, and they're listening to a certain extent, but definitely they're speaking. How do I use it? I might record myself speaking a little video, 1 minute, something like that, where I might do something like a mini presentation. I might start a discussion, all that kind of thing. And then the students can click reply to my video, and then they can record themselves in a webcam like this, recording like a response to mine. Or I can get one of my students to start it, and then I'll do a response. And you can sort of do some sort of recorded conversation, that kind of thing. It's very good for error correcting students' pronunciation, because you don't have the pressure of talking to them straight away and keeping the conversation in your mind whilst also doing their errors. You can also get the you can also sort of get more of a feel by playing it again 2 or 3 times to check the errors if you want to. Flipgrid is a great tool for speaking and for listening. I really recommend it. Okay. Another one that I use a lot is a website called vocabulary.com. Vocabulary.com is believe it or not, it helps with vocabulary. Okay. Basically what you can do is you can get students to sort of start answering a couple of questions about vocabulary, and then the website changes to their level. So if they start getting lots of questions wrong, then the words they get make it become easier. It adjusts to their level, and then hopefully they can just sort of learn a little bit more difficult each week that they do. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. They can do it completely through self-study. I like to do it for a little bit of added value to my students. I have a list of words that I think are useful for whatever their purposes are. So it could be business English, it could be for certain exams, could be for legal English, whatever it might be. And you can upload these words to vocabulary.com, and then you can send out a link to the students, and then vocabulary.com makes materials around those words for you. Okay, so it might check their spelling. It would definitely check the meaning of the words. That's a big thing, that kind of thing. My students love it. They can also download it in an app. It's the sort of thing that you can say, look, why not come and join my classes? Pay me how many pounds an hour you want to get. And then you can also get this added bonus of a vocabulary list that will check, and this kind of thing gives them a little bit extra incentive to stay with you and to keep coming back. Okay, good. So vocabulary.com, have a play around with that. Really good little website. My overall advice before I start answering some of your questions is keep it simple. Don't try and introduce too much too quickly. Okay, keep it to what you know. Keep it to sort of 1 or 2 or 3 different video conferencing tools. Definitely get your hands on Zoom, get your hands on Skype, get ready, get yourself aware of that. But if you start getting students that have this new way of wanting to video conference with you, learn it. Okay, that's what I would say to you, is don't stick to your ways. Quite often the students are a lot more ahead of me in terms of the technology. They know of this great new tool that they think is much better. And if lots of students come to me saying, I want to use this, I want to use this, I want to use this, I go with it. Keep it simple. All right. If you try and introduce too many tools, and if you Google tools, online tools to use in a virtual classroom, all that kind of thing, if you Google it, you'll find loads. There are dozens and dozens and dozens. And when I started, I was like, okay, I'll do a bit of this, I'll do a bit of that, I'll do a bit of this. I found the students just didn't use it. Took up my time, got me annoyed, all that kind of thing. Keep it simple. Use 1 or 2 or 3 different ones a lot instead of trying to use too many. Okay. But I think hardware is more important than software in terms of paying. Okay. So I haven't got a headset on right now because I'm not listening, but definitely it is worth investing in some good headphones and a good microphone if you're going to be talking a lot to students. Okay, I really think that is a good thing to spend money on. It's also good to spend a bit of money on your webcam if you can. My one is now 4 or 5 years old. It's getting a little bit old. I'm thinking about replacing it. It sort of goes out of focus. I don't know whether it will. It's playing up right now. It's not playing up right now, but it does go out of focus a bit. So I would definitely say that it's better to spend money on hardware instead of software. Okay, I definitely think so. All right. Look for ways to keep your costs down. Okay, don't think that spending money is going to be the answer to any IT problems you have. Don't think that spending money on software is going to make it easier for you. Keep it free, keep it cheap. Go down that route first. Okay, and then, as I've been saying, go with your students. If they're having trouble with lots of software, if they're having lots of trouble with the Zoom, then start to think, okay, perhaps I'm making it a little bit too complicated here. Perhaps all I need to do is keep the video going and have a shared drive. Perhaps all I need to do is send the documents to them beforehand so they can print them off. And you will find that some students are very tech literate. They can use the tech really well. You'll find that other students really don't. And quite often students come to me and say, I want to use my mobile phone for lessons. That can make it very difficult because switching through windows, you lose them, all that kind of thing. So try and go with your students, but also try and make sure that they can use a laptop if they can. All right. Good. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to start answering some questions now. So if you've got any questions at all about the world of teaching English as a foreign language, please put them in there. Good. I can see all the hellos. I'm just scrolling down through the hellos. Princess. Hello. Princess Koki Mohammed. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced your name wrong. Hello from Saudi Arabia. You're a student in TEFL. It's a great course. But you want to continue another one after finishing the 120 hours course. Can you please advise what is the course after the basic 120 hour course? Right, Princess, what I would recommend to you after doing the 120 hour course, and I'm really happy that you enjoyed our course here at the TEFL Org, okay? I'm really glad you enjoyed it. What I would recommend you do after you've done that, if you want to do more, is to do something like the online teaching practice course, maybe. So with something like that, you would spend, there's different ways of doing it. You could do a weekend course, or I think we also offer some midweek courses, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You'd have someone like me who's here sort of with a small group of you on Zoom, something like that. And you actually practice teaching the theory that you've already learnt. Okay. I love training them. People I hope love spending time with me for 2 or 3 days a week. We get really good feedback from it. It's really worth looking at on our website for the online teaching practice. And I'm just going to see if I can find that. Yes, so if you go to our website, let me find it there. If you go to our website, which is TEFL.org, the homepage would look a bit like this. Come on, Mr. Computer, please. Thank you. The website will look a bit like this. If you go up here to TEFL courses, you can find some extra courses there, all along there. Classroom TEFL courses, advanced ones, virtual classrooms. I would look at that and see if you can find something that is like a practical add-on to the theory that you've already got, Princess. Great. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Please let me know how it goes. Come back in a couple of weeks and let us know how you go. Good. Right. I'm still going through all the questions. Some people saying that they use Google Classroom. Great. I personally haven't used Google Classroom as a whole that much. Okay. I have used the Google Docs and I've used the shared folders, but I've not used the Google Classroom video conferencing tools that much. Okay. I don't think you need to be connected to a company, Paulette, but I'm not really sure. Good. Teams. Right, some people are asking me about Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams, I think, works quite well in terms of keeping everything together within one software program. So you can get the video calls working pretty well. You can also get the shared folders within one screen. You can get students to ask questions, all that kind of thing pretty easily. I do like that. Personally, I find that the video software isn't as good as Skype and Zoom. That's what I personally find, okay? I find that when I'm phoning Asia, that the calls drop quite a lot. However, I haven't used it for a good 9-10 months now, so it might have got a lot better, but I find personally that Teams doesn't work as well as Zoom and Skype, okay? Good. Thank you. Just trying to get to the questions. Carolyn, hello. Oh, sorry. Johanna, sorry, I missed your question there. What about Skype in Vietnam or Thailand? Right, so I've used Skype to phone Vietnam and Thailand. Definitely 100%. I used to live in Vietnam and Skype worked really well for me there. So unless there's been some rules recently, because Vietnam, the government does sort of like to control the inflow and outflow of information a bit. So whether there's any problems recently, but I've never had any problems using Skype in Vietnam or Thailand myself. Okay, good. Carolyn, does the whiteboard on Zoom allow you to use a graphics pad as well? I've got no idea is the short answer. Now, graphics pad, I think, is like, it's like an extra piece of hardware you buy where you can draw on. Is that right, Carolyn? I think it is. I don't know if Zoom allows you to do that because it's not something I have used myself. what I use on Zoom quite a lot is the whiteboard. So I might draw something, I might type something, I might copy and paste something into it, and then the students can do the same back to me. Okay. So I don't know about a graphics pad. Sorry. Coco, hello. Which software are you using right away? If you want to get up and running quickly, definitely go down the Zoom or Skype route plus a shared document, either Microsoft Word shared document or a Google shared document. Definitely, that is the quickest way to get up and running. And that's what I still teach 95% of my classes on. Okay. Sandrine, LearnCube. I have no idea what LearnCube is. I hope it works. If anybody's got any experience of using LearnCube, please put it in the chat. Help Sandrine out there. Google Docs is free. Yes. Good. Sandrine, hello. Would you advise to only buy ebooks instead of books for teaching online? Right. So, the problem with using books is you might have a copyright problem. Okay. So it depends on your country. You got to look up the copyright laws for the books that you've got. Okay. When I say that I use books, I might use like some of the activities in it, and I might adjust them and then put them into the Google Doc like that I've created myself. If you are going down the freelance route, the absolute best way for you for materials is to keep your niche, as in what you're teaching, quite narrow. So, for example, don't be Sandrine, the English teacher that teaches all types of English. Maybe be Sandrine, the business English teacher. Maybe be Sandrine, the elementary business English teacher, or the advanced or the writing business English teacher. The narrower your niche is, the easier it is for students to find you, and also the less materials you need to create. Because if you're repeating your classes over and over again, because your niche is quite small, then you don't need to have a whole wide range of materials. You can just keep it narrow, and then you can create your own materials that suit your niche really well. Okay, good. I hope that answers your question. Gabriella, what do I think about Google Classroom? I've heard really good reports about Google Classroom, but it's just not something that I used myself. I don't use it. The only whiteboard, Josh, have I used the Miro whiteboard? The only whiteboard I've used is the Zoom one, or I use a shared document. Okay, good. Vivs, your question got a bit cut off there. I'm going to try and work it out. You're trying to be flexible because you teach young kids, but sometimes it's hard to coordinate schedule with parents, for sure. Found Calendly to share my ability to book my classes. Do you know of any other? So, I don't know. Calendly, I think, works pretty well. With my website, I use a WordPress plugin that links to my Google Docs, my Google Calendar. And then students can go in and book their time slot on that. Okay. And then go down that route. Okay. So you might want to have a look about if you've created your own website, whether you can get a booking system going on that. That might be the answer to your question there, Viv. Okay. Good. Lovely. I'll just keep going. Princess, advise me and suggest practice to speech and speaking well with native speakers. Right, so I would look at Google. I would look at Facebook groups. If you can get on Facebook, you're on Facebook. I can see the F. If you can go into some Facebook groups and see if you can do some sort of language exchange, maybe whatever your language is with some English. See if you can go down that route. Okay. Unfortunately, I do find that a lot of there's not much call for people to do this for free, Princess. I do find that people sometimes want some money to do that. Okay, so I'm really sorry, but I would go down the Facebook groups, see if you could do some sort of language exchange, Google whatever your language is and do a language exchange, something like that, and just go down that route. Okay. Good. I'm just trying to find some more questions. Let's just have a look. Josh, hello. Why do I recommend a headset over just headphones? It's a good question. The reason why I recommend a headset is because I find that they're more comfortable for speaking longer, because the I don't know what the technical word is for this bit, but this bit sits around your ear, doesn't push down your ears. It's not inside your ear so much. So it's much better for long term too. Some days I can spend 6 hours on Zoom and I find that it's just more comfortable. I also find that the microphone works pretty well. I can sort of lean back a bit like that. I can have a little think. I just find that the microphone is much better when chatting, that kind of thing. All right. Val, hello. We're freelancing. How do I receive payments? Good question. Again, this is something that it depends on what your students want to use. So I have a lot of students that are in the UK. Those ones I just get a bank transfer through. I get a lot of students from abroad. I try to use PayPal and I put the fees onto them. But quite often they will say to me, oh, wait there, I've got a friend and I use this piece of software to send the money, and I Google it, I check it, it's all okay, and I use that. I would go down the route depending on their country, because PayPal works for some countries but not for all countries. Okay, so it depends where your students are coming from, which ones you use. Best thing for me is a bank transfer from UK based students. Second, I use PayPal. After that, I use sort of whatever one fits the country that they are in. Okay, tend to find that being in the UK, there's less restrictions on me, more the restrictions come from whatever country the student's in. Okay, good. Nigel, good question. Do I find that one screen is enough? No, I would say that if you can go down the double screen route. Okay, so if you can see, you're going to see my messy desk here now. I have a screen here, and then I've also got the screen directly in front of me. Why is that good? Because I can have something set up on this screen and also keep the students up here on this screen, basically. And by doing that, I can flick through them. I can keep things going, like the document up there, or a PowerPoint going there, or whatever it is I'm going to do. And it just keeps the clutter off this main screen that I've got here. Okay, definitely worth spending under £100 if you're going to be doing this long term for a second screen. Okay, Elizabeth, how do I get paid? I think I just answered that one. Go down that route. I think just go with whatever your students that you're getting your students from. What do they want to use? David, good question. Do I have a green screen for the background? You can see that this is my spare room. I do not have a green screen. It's very messy up there. I don't like personally using green screens. I just think they look they look a bit amateurish myself. But I do know people that do use green screens and they think they're great. But I don't really like how it sort of goes around as you're moving, that kind of thing, around where your head connects with the back sort of thing. So I personally don't like it, David, but perhaps I should, because many students tell me how messy it is behind me there. Coco, what do you do when you lose track of your teaching online due to poor connection or other issues? This happens. The first thing is try and make it not at your end. So, try and get a good internet connection wherever you are in the world if you can. I know that can be difficult. I think you would be surprised how sort of students aren't too worried about that, really. Okay. One of the things that you can do to sort of help you do that is maybe turn the video off if you need to. Sharing screens too much can also cause, I find, connection problems. So just try and keep that not using that too much. Okay. If you do have real big problems constantly, see if you can upgrade your internet connection. Even maybe think if it's better to use a connection through the air, such as your local 4G or 3G, whatever it might be, instead of your Wi-Fi. Or I also find that plugging in a device into the router works a lot better. Okay, if you can do that. Megan, hello. What advice do I have to locate your own students when teaching freelance? You're working for an online school in China and would love to get more freelance to fill your hours. Right, lovely, Megan. So you're doing it the right way. You've already got some work. Good. That's the way I would recommend everybody start it. first thing you've got to do is think about what you're going to teach, Megan. So think about your niche. Are you going to teach adults? Are you going to teach kids? If you're going to teach adults, what type of English are you going to teach? What kind of levels are you going to teach? What is the ultimate goal for your students? Try and think of something that's very practical that will definitely help them with their career, with their life, like moving, immigration, that kind of thing. Because the more it will be of benefit to them, the more likely they are to pay. Then start building a website. Once you start building your own website, start to also do Facebook groups, do Instagram pages, put into Google marketing funnels, all that kind of thing, get all that sorted, and then start finding your students that way. Takes time. You won't get a full calendar from your own freelance students quickly. Takes time, takes effort. Okay, there's some lovely things in there about extra materials people are using. That's fantastic. Well done. Carol, hello. Do I have any platform for listening activities that I like to use? So the type of English I teach is for a specific exam. Generally, not all the time, but generally is for specific exams. So I use materials linked to that exam. Okay, I'm not going to mention the name of the exam. So really, it does depend on the niche that you're going to be teaching. Yeah, if you want to just do general, podcasts are great. TED Talks are great, although TED Talks are great for content. I feel they're not very natural in terms of conversation, that kind of thing. Little clips that you can maybe download from radio stations where people are phoning in, chatting, that kind of thing, I think are really good. Carol, okay, good. Johanna, you're a student in TEFL, starting your course. How was my experience teaching in Vietnam? Love to go there. So Vietnam was one of my first jobs abroad. I applied for to work at a university out there, got that in Ho Chi Minh City. Absolutely loved it. This was about 20 years ago though, so I feel like things have got a bit more expensive, and it's definitely got a lot more developed out there since I did that. Vietnam is a great country to go to. The people are really lovely. The people are fun. They're friendly. I think, you've got Ho Chi Minh City at the bottom, Hanoi at the top, very different contrasts. Ho Chi Minh City is a lot more sort of maybe a bit more party based. Hanoi is a lot more, at the top is a bit more sort of cultural, that kind of thing. Then you've got the lovely beaches in the middle. Lots of jobs out there. I recommend it if you can, and get yourself a motorbike and go pottering around. It's fantastic. Andrea, hello. Can I take you through a typical one-to-one lesson? Ooh, that would take me a while. Maybe some tips from beginners. Right. So when you're teaching online, the theory of teaching is not different from the theory of teaching in a classroom. So if you've got a 120-hour certificate like we offer, whatever you've learned in there, although it might not specifically be about online teaching, the theory is the same. So, a grammar lesson would have some sort of warmer, you'd have some sort of presentation of the grammar, you'd have some control practice, you'd have some free practice. There we go. As if you were in a classroom, it's the same online, okay? Some tips for teaching beginners: take it slow. If they're really, really, really low beginners and you speak their language, don't be afraid to help them a bit with that, okay? If they're having problems with a grammar point, so can you, and you're having trouble saying it in English, and they are as well, get them to say it in their own language. I personally don't have a problem with that. Some people will say that's heresy, but I don't personally have a problem with that. Take it slow. Beginners, don't expect too much with beginners, okay? They're not going to learn as quickly as you might think they might, okay? Don't push too much on them. Don't try and get them going too quickly, okay? Just get them speaking and building up their confidence as well is a key part of beginners, okay? Joanna, hello. You're asking loads of questions. I like it, Joanna. Anybody else want to ask some questions? Keep them coming, Johanna. You're at uni and you're working part-time, but you're really good at managing your time. How do you do that? Can you do a webinar on that to help me? And I wanted to ask, how many times per day, week, studying TEFL course? Right, basically, it depends on you, Johanna. We say that it takes 120 hours to study it. Some people might do that in a month. Some people might do, is that possible in a month? Yeah, it's possible in a month. Some people might do it over the course of 6 months. Okay. It's really up to you, Johanna. Depends on you. I've got kids. I've got a company to run. I've just recently done a course in marketing. I found it really difficult to do. Really depends on you. However much time you've got, just do it. Okay. My advice to you would be to just do a little bit often instead of doing loads at one time. So you just sort of keep yourself going. Okay, good. Jack, you can ask a really long question. Hello. You've almost finished your 120 hour. Look, Jack, you can't even see me anymore. I am planning to teach part-time in an online teaching company while you study at university. You can't have a MacBook. We're having a MacBook cause me problems using some softwares and systems that online teaching companies expect me to use. But better with a laptop that runs Windows. Yes. Short answer. I find that most companies that recruit people want people to have a Windows PC. They might ask you to download some Windows PC software onto your computer. However, I also know plenty of people that teach with Macs. So have a look. Quite often in jobs that you see advertised, it will say something like must have a Windows PC. So have a look at the ones that you are suitable for, that you want to work for, and see if it says Windows only. Okay, do a little bit of research, maybe email them and say, look, I have a Mac, should I buy a Windows, that kind of thing. All right, but yeah, Windows is definitely more popular than Macs. Okay, Carolyn, hello. You started your TEFL a few years ago, but then did your PGCE. Anybody that doesn't know, PGCE is an academic course you generally do after a degree in the United Kingdom. I don't know what it's called in other countries, but that's what it's called in the UK, which allows you to go and teach in high schools and primary schools in the UK. Also allows you to go abroad and teach in international schools. You want to do your TEFL to teach abroad. Can you study an intense course abroad? Do you mean one of our courses? So we offer them, and Erin, you might have to help me here, but I think we offer them in Spain and America, our courses, the intense ones, I think. But when they're running again, I don't know. The ones in the UK, we're hoping to start running towards the end of March. Hoping. Can't guarantee that. I would say, why not just do your 120-hour online course now and do an online intense. You call it intense. I don't know if intense is the right word, but like a weekend course, like a practical course, Carolyn. See if you can do that one. Okay. David, thank you about your green screen stuff. Lindy, please can you give me advice on creating a profile? I'm not really sure what sort of profile you're talking about. If you're talking about being who you're going to teach, think about what you would enjoy teaching and think about what the students that you're aiming for would want to learn. So for example, Japanese students, they quite like a certain test that they might want to take if you're going to go down that route. Korean students quite like academic English, that kind of thing. I'm not really sure what you mean by profile. More advice needed, please, Lindy. If it's dating profile, I have no idea. Ben, hello. Is having a touch screen on your laptop or tablet screen enabling to write directly on the screen recommended? I don't use it at all. I've tried using one and I really didn't like it. You might love it. I really don't think you need it because you can type into a shared document. You could draw with your mouse onto a whiteboard. Okay. Hello. How do students find you or you find them? Now they find me. I'm lucky like that because I've been going a while, but I started off by finding them by doing adverts and through websites and Facebook groups. And also I found them on Gumtree. I think that works pretty well. Okay. Gumtree, I think is, believe it or not, an easier and cheapish way to find students. Shawnee, hello. Can you teach English for an American company online if based in Europe? No idea, Shawnee. I really don't know. I'm trying to think of an answer that sounds convincing. No one's ever asked me that before. You'd have to ask them themselves. I don't know. What depends. If they're going down the American visa rules, then it might be difficult. The payment rules, I don't know. Not something that anyone's ever asked me. Sorry, Shawnee. Good. Lots of people saying they use touchpads. Fantastic. Good. I've lost the questions. Let me keep going. No problem about answering the questions. Carol, hello. You use Google Classroom, but it's a bit bad to show videos. What platform do I recommend that I can share videos with my students? Zoom or Skype? I personally find that the easiest way to share videos is to send them the link. You get them to play it themselves. Quite often, if you send them a link, even though you're teaching on a Windows PC, they'll get the video up on their phone and they'll watch it like that. So I think the best way is just to send them the link myself. I have tried doing the Zoom sharing videos, but I find that it uses up the internet quite a bit. And if you've got a bad connection, it's difficult. So I think the best thing to do is just to send them the link. Cheryl, lovely question. Do I know the easiest way of marking and giving feedback on writing? Use error correction codes, but I find it difficult to use these codes over the words or phrases. So how I do writing corrections is through, like the error correction codes, I think are still the best way. But what I do is I do the colors. So I would say yellow is verb tense. I would say red is word tense. I would use blue for spelling, whatever it might be. And I also, in Microsoft Word or Google Docs, I do comments and say, look, can you rephrase this, whatever it might be, or this is fantastic, well done, more of this, or this kind of thing. So that's how I do it, instead of, because obviously it's difficult to write VT on top of it. One of the other things that I have done is I record myself speaking over their essay. So I'll do like a screen recording and I will use the mouse to highlight the bit that I'm talking about, that kind of thing. All right. Hope that helps. Hope that works out for you, Cheryl. Pamela, as a freelance, can I provide some tips on how to market your services? Yep. Be patient is my first tip. It won't happen quickly. Second tip is make sure your website is good. Make sure it's got things like the search engine optimization going for it, all that kind of thing. Make sure that you've got your social media marketing going well. Don't pay too much at the start. Find out as much information as you can about Facebook and Google ads so you don't spend too much money. All right. Step by step. Don't think as a freelance teacher you're going to be up and running really quickly. You're not. It's going to take time. Took me 2-3 years to be full up with my freelance teaching. Okay. Cheryl, I think I just answered your question. Samantha, what advice would I give to land in my first online teaching job? The first piece of advice I would give would be to go back and watch the video that I did last week, which was about how to find your first teaching job. That's the first piece of advice I would do. The second piece of advice I would do would be to make sure that you do some research into the jobs, that it's the sort of job that you'd be happy to do. And I would also then, the third piece of advice I would say is don't expect too much too soon. It's going to take you a while, and apply to 2 or 3. Don't apply to 100 all at once, but apply to 2 or 3 all at one time and see if you can get them to, and you can try and get full time between 2 or 3 companies and then find the one that you like working for. Okay. Emma, tax. Somebody always asks about tax, which is lovely. I like that people are asking about tax because I believe in paying taxes. Well done for having ethics and paying taxes, Emma. What about invoicing for tax? Now, invoicing them for tax, I never do that. Okay, if that's what you mean, the students. Paying my own tax really depends on your situation, wherever you are in the world. I need lots of information to find out about you, Emma. I find that this is what I generally find, but you need to work this out yourself. If you work for a company and you pay tax in that country, you generally, in the UK, I'm sure, but I'm also not sure, you need to work out yourself because I don't want you going to prison because of something that I've said about tax. But I think you generally don't need to pay tax if you've been taxed somewhere else. Okay? You need to Google that yourself, Emma. I'm not an accountant. I'm a TEFL teacher. No here. Hello. Can I teach TEFL without being qualified? Short answer is I wouldn't recommend it. No here. I would recommend that you do a 120-hour course. Even if you haven't got a degree, do the course. You will find work. It will give you information that will allow you to set yourself up as a freelance. That's a short answer. Definitely get some sort of qualification. It doesn't, it's a good investment, I think. Second answer is, yes, you can teach TEFL without being qualified, but you won't be able to work for another company. You'd only really be able to work freelance yourself. And also, would you as a student like to have a teacher that has no qualifications in teaching? I would not. There we go. Elizabeth, do I get paid after lesson, or when would be the best time to pay for lessons? So the payment thing is, I've never ever been swindled from students not paying me. Okay. How I work it is, the first lesson they can do online and they can pay for it online. After I've done that first lesson, I talk to them about what they want. Do they want to buy lots of lessons up front, pay for and give them a discount if they can pay for a certain number up front? Works sometimes. Most of the time it doesn't work. They just want to pay one by one. And then I find that generally students then pay for it before. If someone says, right, I want to do Monday at 4:00 and it gets to Monday 3:55 and the payment hasn't gone in, I start the lesson and then I do the lesson and I say, look, I'm not going to do another lesson. I'm not going to mark your homework, none of that until you pay me. That generally makes them pay. Okay. Mario, where would I advertise my lessons if not on a private website? I would advertise on Google. I would advertise on Facebook. I would advertise on Instagram. I would advertise on YouTube. I would advertise on LinkedIn. There we go. James, what payment? That's a different question. What sort of payment problems can one expect at the beginning? The amount of fees that you might get charged might annoy you, James. That might be something that you learned at the start. Okay. And I now pass the fees on to students, or I price it into my hourly rate that I'm happy with. But I find that what I think you'd find at the start is that students aren't willing to pay for lots of lessons up front. They just sort of want to pay for individual ones. Okay. That's what I would say, James. Agnes, any list of companies who accept non-native teachers? Lovely. Right, wait there. Let me just share my screen again. If we go to our the TEFL Org website, if you go to the blog page in here, so up this corner, you click on blog. It should load. It did load, but I just got a bit impatient. If you put in here non-native speakers, if you put that into the blog post, you'll find lots of things here which will help you with people that are not native speakers. Okay, so definitely just look on our blog page. There's loads of stuff on our website about that. Okay, I would just go down that route, tefl.org. Okay, good luck, Agnes. If you are a non-native speaker, unfortunately, you are going to find that there are some barriers. You'll see jobs advertised which you can't go for. However, stay with it, keep going. You will find work, and also set yourself up as a freelance at the same time, Agnes. Okay, Adam. Getting clips off the radio or podcast, how do you edit them? What software do you use? I don't tend to edit them. I just sort of download them and play them. I might shorten them, and if I do that, I think I haven't done that for a long time now. I use just sort of some sort of Windows Media Player, the one that's built in, I think. Copyright issues depends on the country that you're in. You need to check that yourself. Okay. Gabrielle, is the 198-hour course useless compared to the 120-hour? Of course it's not. Of course it's not useless. Right. Why would you go for a 198-hour course or an advanced course instead of a 120-hour course? The main reason is because as teachers, the best teachers are always learning and are always taking qualifications. I have I don't know, 10 different certificates in teaching English as a foreign language. I don't just have my 120-hour one. Why do I do that? Because it allows me to move up the ladder in terms of teaching jobs to senior teacher, to director of studies, become an examiner, all that kind of thing. So if you think this is something that you want to do for slightly longer term, go for the advanced course. However, the 120-hour course does get you up and running well. Okay, useless. Absolutely not, Gabriella. I only got about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to keep going for as soon as I can. Diletta, is the online teaching practice course about one-to-one teaching too? So it covers lots of different ways. So it wouldn't just be one-on-one. It would be one teacher teaching groups as well. Okay, so it would cover lots of different types of it. Okay. Michelle, can I recommend some good sites for all-round resources? I like onestopenglish.com. Some of it you have to pay for, some of it is free. Onestopenglish.com. I also like the British Council websites. They're pretty good. I also like our website, TEFL.org. We have a section in there about resources, that kind of thing. PDF resources that you can download and that kind of thing. All right. Laura, can the 6-month course be extended? Contact the office. They will help you out if you are coming to the end of the 6 months. Tell them what they need and tell them what your situation is. I'm sure they can help you out. Okay. Hello, Sandrine. Can I recommend a consultancy agency, please? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. You have a lot of questions about your online teacher business and your CV. Thank you. Sandrine, message our Facebook page with what exactly your questions are, and I'll see if we can help you out with that thing. Okay, send a message through the TEFL Org page, and we'll see what we can do. All right, okay. Good. Do runs. Thank you very much. I'm just trying to find some last few questions. Lots of helpful tips about Windows on a Mac. Good. Tadiwa, how much experience should you acquire before trying to freelance? Good question. I would say the more experience you have, the better. However, I would suggest you to start building up experience working for a company and building up your website at the first time. You know, don't charge too much if you're an inexperienced teacher in the freelance world, because your students might be a bit disappointed at the start. Okay, you know, don't go straight in thinking you can charge $50 an hour. You might need to do slightly less. Okay. Good. I'm glad that there's some more thoughts. N. Lemercier, hello. I bought the online bundle but can't figure out how to copy and paste the resources into Google Docs to share with students. Can you please help? So I'm not really sure what you mean there. But what you might want to do is something like a screen capture. So you could do sort of a snip of your screen and then copy that and paste that in. Does that help? Or if not, you might need to retype them. I'm not quite sure what your question is though. And Mercia, hello. Brendan, do I think there will be any issues getting work with an employer with a 100% online course rather than getting some in-person learning too? I'm not really sure what that question means, Brendan. Do you mean, no, I don't think that you could. I think if you could do in-person teaching, and then if you've got in-person teaching in a classroom there and you also want to teach online, then the best way to do that would be to be a freelance teacher. Okay. Because that way you can control your time a bit more. Okay. You might need to just have a look at the website, have a look at what the hours they're giving you and see if it fits in with what you want to do. Okay. Rose, I'm just going to answer 2 or 3 questions really quickly. Rose, what are the best web pages to list your services rather than try and advertise independently? Gumtree is not a bad one. But you've got to, if you're going to be a freelance, the best way to do it is to get yourself advertising independently. Dan Lee, I would set yourself up as a freelancer, go down that route.